I don't think it's any secret to tell you that multimedia consumption, whether it's videos, music, or games, it's become one of the biggest things that we do on our smartphones every single day. So in this video, we're going to look at the brand new Galaxy S23 Ultra. We're going to look at the Pixel 7 Pro, which I think is a good direct competitor to this phone at a cheaper price, as well as my Galaxy Z Fold 4. And we're going to kind of compare and contrast what that experience is like on all three of these devices. So first off, we have the Pixel 7 Pro here, the S23 Ultra here, and then the Z Fold 4 obviously in that position. The S23 Ultra is a 6.8-inch screen running at 1440p, and that resolution is where I would recommend you using it. The battery life on this thing seems to be good enough that that should be something you should be able to do pretty easily without killing your battery. The Pixel 7 Pro is also a 1440p panel, and then the Z Fold is a rather weird 812 by 2176. They are all three stereo speakers, and that's where we're going to start off here, is with that audio, because it's something that I can kind of do very, very quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the audio filtering on my microphone that cuts out background noise and things like that. And then we're going to quickly just do an audio test. I'm going to play some music on each one and tell you what I'm hearing here in person. And you can kind of make your own judgments as well based on what you are hearing as well. And let's go ahead and launch YouTube Music to do that. And you can kind of see some performance there in terms of how quickly each of those were launched. And we are going to be at maximum volume on each of these because that's where you're going to get the biggest differences. Are you going to hear distortion, this, that, and the other thing? That tends to be the place where you're going to be able to hear that the best. So let's move the microphone into place here. And I'm going to try and keep it pretty consistent distance-wise from all of them, and we'll see what we can hear. So obviously you can draw your own conclusions, but to my ear, the Pixel 7 Pro was the loudest of the three. However, the Samsung devices both had better bass. They were both a fuller, more pleasant sound to the ear. Both Samsung devices did have this slight staticky thing going on, but the Pixel had that as well, but a little bit worse. It's a little bit harsher on the ears, kind of distorting more at those higher volumes. So it seems to me as though the Samsung has that better low end, whereas the Google phone, the Pixel phone, is pushing the volume higher, leaving the low end behind and getting a little bit harsher at those high volumes. Of course, all three are stereo. All three have pretty decent stereo separation, considering they're a rather small, device, all things considered. I think that they all sound very good. So you're going to have to decide, are you preferring the extra loudness of the Pixel or that fuller, bassier sound of the Samsung devices? I probably lean towards the Samsung devices in that regard, but it is fairly close for me. All three do sound pretty good. All right, so audio is kind of taken care of for the most part there. They all do a pretty good job. What about for video consumption? Well, we're going to start in sort of a weird place because these are kind of weird aspect ratios, and I want to kind of illustrate this a couple of different ways. So let's turn the volume down now so that we don't have, blaringly loud noises while we're trying to do this. And now we're going to open up a somewhat controversial app called TikTok. And we've got one of my videos just playing here, and the reason I'm doing this is to illustrate that on these two devices, that video is going to take up the majority of the screen, whereas on the Z Fold, you are going to have these black bars on either side. Now, this might be useful because you can see the comments and then now see a full video, but that's something that's going to matter app per app. If we now go over to a place like YouTube, and again start one of my videos, you're going to see something different. When you're in this orientation, the Z Fold 4 takes a massive lead. This is a really nice video watching experience, and you can still see the comments, or perhaps you're going to be split screen multitasking. These are obviously quite a bit smaller, but we do need to quickly rotate these things around. Let's go full screen, and I am just going to kind of have it sideways just simply for the act of keeping everything framed. Now what you can see is that things get a lot closer, okay, when you go full screen. On the Fold, you once again have these very large black bars, and you can pinch to zoom in, but yeah, you're losing a lot of content on the edges at that point. You have a black bar here and here on these. So they've all got black bars. You can, of course, pinch to zoom in on these, and you're going to lose less content off the top and the bottom, but still kind of a suboptimal experience on all of them. But what's interesting is that looking at it like this, even though this screen is so big because of the shape of it, the video itself is not that much larger than it is on these other two phones, which is why I really think that the utility of the Z Fold has more to do with the multitasking aspect than anything else. Honestly, in terms of just watching content, they're all really similar. You might be thinking, well, hey, that's a tablet. That's going to clearly be the best multimedia device in terms of watching video content. But because of the shape of the screen, that's not really the case. It's the best device for multimedia content and another app for sure. But if you're just watching a movie, like I said, you might think the Fold is the obvious answer, but it's really not. The S23 Ultra and the Pixel 7 Pro are pretty much just as good at this. All three screens are very high resolution. All three screens look really, really good. And you might have to consider, for some of you, that crease that is sometimes visible on the Z Fold might be a big detriment. Now, one small place where the Fold might, have a little bit of an advantage is the fact that it can kind of be its own kickstand. With these other phones, you're definitely going to want to have some sort of a kickstand case if multimedia is very important to you. With this device, granted, this is not, a thing I'm going to do a lot, but it's something that you can do. You can prop it up and watch that video content like that, again, using it as its own kickstand. Now, that video is quite small now because of the shape of the screen, but again, I thought it was at least worth pointing out. So what about gaming? In order to quantify this, I ran a 3D Mark benchmark, which I just stuck with the wildlife test. This is the basic test that it recommends to use, and the Pixel 7 Pro scored 6566, which with an average frame rate of 39.30 FPS. It also said that my score is better than 97% of scores for the Google Pixel 7 Pro. So this was a well-performing Pixel 7 Pro test. On the S23 Ultra, it literally says that it's too powerful for this benchmark. The overall score is maxed out. The FPS is maxed out. And it looks like it was consistently hitting, well over 60 FPS for most of this test. Now, you may have noticed that the Z Fold 4 actually scored worse, and that is because I'm dumb, and I accidentally ran the Wildlife Extreme test, which I believe is just at a higher resolution. It's a tougher version of the test. I got a couple of comments on the prior version of this video. People saying, hey, you ran the wrong test on the Z Fold. So this is the corrected, updated version. This is the only part that changed from version to version. So let's go back, and I did run it on the standard one, and it is also now maxed out just like the S23 Ultra. But that got me wondering, right? What would these both do on the extreme version? What would they all three do on the extreme version? So what we're going to do is I'm going to scroll over to the extreme version on all three, and we're going to run them. We already know what the score was for the Fold. We don't know what it is Wildlife Extreme on these two. So we're going to run both of these, and then we're going to get those results as well. And these results are more in line with what I was expecting. So we go 1, 2, and then third place on the Pixel 7 Pro, 11 FPS, 16, and 22. So this is your fastest phone of these available here. This is going to be the fastest gaming phone. Now keep in mind, they all have great speakers. They all have great, very large screens. So they're all going to be pretty decent at gaming, but the Pixel 7 Pro is going to definitely be the weakest. Of course, the Z Fold's benefit, though, is going to matter game to game, right? Because some games are going to default to 16:9, and if that's happening, you might as well be using the S23 Ultra at that point because it's going to be faster. But some Android games like Genshin Impact are going to take up the full canvas, the full size of the screen, in which case the Fold 4 suddenly has a really, really nice advantage in that regard. And of course, each of these are capable of being slotted into something like this gaming controller. This is the Rig MGX, which I reviewed on this channel. But yeah, like I said, they can all fit in it, but just barely. These are all pretty much as big as any phone could possibly be to fit in here. But if you do want to go that route, just know most of these controllers are going to work. The Rig MGX works. This controller from GameSir also will work, also at pretty much the very edge of its ability to fit, but still does work. And both of these do work with the Z Fold as well. So gaming on any of these probably gonna be pretty good. So there you go, guys. Hopefully this information has been beneficial to you. If you were trying to decide between these three devices, perhaps you have one and you're looking at the other and you want to know what that multimedia experience is going to be like on the other side of the fence. If you want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button. A ton more S23 content coming very, very soon. I will see you on that next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.